Would you want your doctor to be a psychopath? Now, before you dismiss the idea outright, consider this. Psychopathy, often misunderstood, might just have a surprising place in the medical field. Imagine a surgeon with nerves of steel, untouched by stress or anxiety. Intriguing, isn't it? We're not suggesting that all doctors should be psychopaths, but perhaps the characteristics we often associate with psychopathy could be beneficial in certain medical situations. Stay tuned as we unravel the surprising truth behind this provocative question. To understand why you might want a psychopath as your doctor, first, you need to understand what a psychopath is. A psychopath, in the most fundamental sense, is an individual with a specific personality disorder characterized by enduring antisocial behavior, diminished empathy and remorse, and bold, disinhibited, and egotistical traits. However, it's crucial to dispel some common misconceptions about psychopathy. Psychopathology isn't synonymous with being violent or evil, as often portrayed in popular media. In fact, most psychopaths live ordinary lives among us, undetected and unremarkable. The term psychopath is derived from two Greek words, psyche, meaning mind, and pathos, meaning suffering. Thus, a psychopath is someone whose mind is, in a sense, suffering. But how does this suffering manifest itself? It's primarily through a set of distinctive characteristics. First, psychopaths typically exhibit a grandiose sense of self-worth. They believe they are superior to others and often display an inflated sense of their abilities and achievements. Second, psychopaths are characterized by a lack of empathy, which is the ability to understand and share the feelings of others. This does not mean they don't understand emotions, they do, but they are not affected by them in the same way most people are. Third, psychopaths are often impulsive and irresponsible. They tend to make decisions quickly without considering the long-term consequences. And finally, psychopaths are known for their manipulative nature. They are adept at influencing others and often use this skill to their advantage without any regard for the well-being of the individuals they manipulate. But remember, not all psychopaths are the same, and not all exhibit these traits to the same degree. Psychopathy is a spectrum, and individuals can fall anywhere along this continuum. So, it's not about labeling someone as a psychopath or not a psychopath, but rather understanding that these characteristics exist in varying intensities in different individuals. Now that we understand what a psychopath is, let's explore why they might make good doctors. Meet Dr. James Fallon, a successful neuroscientist and self-proclaimed psychopath. Our case in point is none other than Dr. James Fallon himself. A neuroscientist by trade, Dr. Fallon has made remarkable strides in his field. But what sets him apart from his peers is his self-diagnosis as a psychopath. Yes, you heard it right, a psychopath. Dr. Fallon's self-diagnosis was not a product of mere whimsy. It was rooted in his research into the brain scans of diagnosed psychopaths. While studying these scans for patterns and anomalies, he stumbled upon his own brain scan, which he had mixed up with the others. To his surprise, it mirrored the patterns of the psychopaths he was studying. This revelation, far from discouraging him, only spurred him on. He began to reflect on his traits and behaviors, and he recognized the classic signs of psychopathy in himself: a lack of empathy, fearless dominance, and a propensity for risk-taking. Notably, these are traits that have served him well in his career. His fearless dominance has enabled him to advocate for his research and ideas, often pushing boundaries and challenging the status quo. His lack of empathy, while it might seem counterintuitive, has allowed him to remain objective and detached, a critical aspect in the field of neuroscience. Dr. Fallon's propensity for risk-taking is another key component of his success. The medical field, particularly neuroscience, is a realm filled with unknowns. Venturing into this uncharted territory requires a certain level of audacity, a trait that Dr. Fallon has in spades. By embracing his psychopathic traits rather than shying away from them, Dr. Fallon has managed to carve out a successful career in neuroscience. His story challenges our preconceived notions about psychopathy, showing us that these traits, often viewed as negative, can in fact be harnessed for success, particularly in the high-stakes world of medicine. Dr. Fallon is just one example of a successful psychopath in the medical field. But what's the science behind this? Research suggests that certain psychopathic traits can be beneficial in medicine. Let's delve into the science behind this. Psychopathy is often associated with negative connotations. However, when we break down the psychopathic personality traits, we find a few that are surprisingly advantageous in the field of medicine. Fearlessness, stress resistance, and coolness under pressure are just a few among them. Let's begin with fearlessness. A study published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that individuals with high levels of fearlessness are better equipped to make difficult decisions under stress. This trait is particularly useful in high-stakes medical situations where lives hang in the balance. Surgeons, for instance, must remain fearless as they navigate complex procedures. A wavering hand or a doubtful mind brought on by fear can be the difference between life and death. Next, let's consider stress resistance. Research from the University of Cambridge suggests that individuals who score high on certain psychopathic traits exhibit lower levels of stress hormones and a stronger immune response. In the high-pressure world of medicine, where doctors often work long hours in stressful conditions, this resistance to stress can be invaluable. It allows doctors to maintain focus and make clear-headed decisions, even when fatigue sets in, or the situation becomes overwhelming. Finally, we come to the trait of coolness under pressure. A study in the Journal of Abnormal Psychology has shown that individuals with psychopathic traits have a unique ability to remain calm under pressure. This is due to their lower levels of anxiety and a different physiological response to stress. In medical emergencies, where every second counts, the ability to stay cool and collected can significantly improve patient outcomes. But it's not just these traits that can be beneficial. A research paper in the British Journal of Psychiatry highlights that individuals with psychopathic traits are often very charismatic and persuasive. This can be advantageous in the medical field, where convincing a patient to follow a treatment plan or persuading a team to follow a surgical strategy can be crucial. Of course, it's important to note that having these traits doesn't make someone a psychopath. These characteristics exist on a spectrum, and we all have them to varying degrees. Moreover, it's the balance of these traits within an individual that matters. Too much fearlessness can lead to recklessness, while too much stress resistance might result in apathy. So while we're not suggesting that all doctors should be psychopaths, it's clear that certain psychopathic traits, when present in the right balance, can contribute to better performance in the medical field. The scientific evidence is compelling, but let's look at another real-life example. An anonymous ER doctor who identifies as a psychopath shares his experience. Let's delve into the life of an unnamed emergency room physician who identifies himself as a psychopath. Now, it's important to remember that being a psychopath isn't necessarily a bad thing. In fact, in the demanding and high-stress environment of an ER, this doctor's psychopathic traits have proven to be advantageous. In the chaotic world of emergency medicine, the ability to remain unflappable, dispassionate, and laser-focused under immense pressure is invaluable. Our anonymous doctor shares that his lack of emotional attachment allows him to make clear, rational decisions quickly and effectively. He isn't paralyzed by emotional turmoil when faced with life-or-death decisions. Instead, he operates with a cool, detached efficiency, making snap decisions that often save lives. Furthermore, his fearlessness, a trait common among psychopaths, serves him well in the ER. The doctor tells us that he never hesitates to take the necessary risks, whether that's performing a high-stakes procedure or making a controversial call. This audacity, combined with his ability to think on his feet, makes him an effective leader in the ER. But it's not just about being fearless and emotionally detached. Our anonymous doctor also exhibits the psychopathic trait of charm, which he uses to his advantage. He is able to build trust and rapport with his patients quickly, putting them at ease in distressing situations. His charisma also helps him to effectively manage his team, ensuring smooth operations in the ER. However, let's not forget about the potential downsides. The doctor admits that his lack of empathy can sometimes make it difficult for him to connect with patients on a deeper, emotional level. But he believes that his ability to remain unfazed and focused in high-pressure situations more than compensates for this shortcoming. Yet another example of a psychopath succeeding in the medical field. But what does this mean for patients? The answer to that question might just surprise you. Stay tuned as we continue to unravel the fascinating relationship between psychopathy and medicine. How might having a psychopath as a doctor affect the patient experience? It's a question that might sound absurd, but let's dive in and explore this thought-provoking concept. A psychopathic doctor could have a profound impact on a patient's experience, and this impact might not be entirely negative. One of the hallmarks of psychopathy is a high degree of confidence, and in the medical field, confidence can be reassuring. A doctor with an unshakable belief in their abilities can provide a sense of security for their patients, making them feel like they are in capable hands. Think about it. If you were lying on a surgical table, wouldn't you want your doctor to have the confidence of a psychopath? A doctor who makes decisions swiftly, unencumbered by self-doubt or second-guessing. This is where the psychopathic trait of efficient decision-making could be a boon. In life or death situations where every second counts, you'd want a doctor who can make the right call without hesitation. But of course, it's not all roses. There's a potential downside to having a psychopath as a doctor too. Empathy is often seen as a defining characteristic of a good doctor, and it's something that psychopaths are notoriously lacking. The ability to understand and share the feelings of others can help doctors connect with their patients on a deeper level, establishing trust and creating a supportive healing environment. A psychopathic doctor might be efficient and confident, but they might also come across as cold, detached, or uncaring. So it seems that having a psychopath as a doctor is a double-edged sword. On one hand, their confidence and decision-making prowess could inspire trust and potentially lead to swift, effective treatment. On the other hand, their lack of empathy could make the doctor-patient relationship feel impersonal and sterile. Clearly, there are both pros and cons to having a psychopath as a doctor, so let's wrap this up. So, would you want your doctor to be a psychopath? Let's take a moment to recap what we've uncovered thus far. We started our journey with a provocative question, one that may have seemed absurd at the outset. But as we ventured deeper into the world of psychopathy and medicine, we discovered a surprising intersection between the two. We learned that psychopathy isn't necessarily about violence or lack of empathy, but rather about possessing certain personality traits that may not be as black and white as we've been led to believe. We examined the case of Dr. James Fallon, a neuroscientist who discovered he had the brain of a psychopath. Yet, despite this, he is a successful and respected member of his field, not a violent criminal. This led us to question our preconceived notions about what it means to be a psychopath. Then we delved into the science behind psychopathy and medicine. We found that some traits associated with psychopathy, such as fearlessness, stress tolerance, and decisiveness, can be advantageous in the high-pressure world of medicine. We heard from an anonymous ER doctor who identified as a psychopath. Despite his unconventional personality, his ability to make swift decisions and remain calm under pressure proved invaluable in saving countless lives. We also explored the patient's perspective. We found that while some patients may be unnerved by the idea of a psychopathic doctor, others appreciated the efficiency and decisiveness that such doctors often bring to the table. So, what's the surprising truth? It's that certain psychopathic traits can indeed be beneficial in the world of medicine. A psychopathic doctor isn't necessarily a cold, emotionless individual. Instead, they could be someone who is fearless, able to make swift decisions, and can remain calm under pressure. These traits can make them exceptionally effective in high-stress medical situations. Now, this doesn't mean we should start hoping all our doctors are psychopaths. Not at all. Like everything in life, balance is key. A good doctor needs to combine these traits with empathy, compassion, and excellent communication skills. However, it's also important to remember that psychopathy is a spectrum. Just as not all psychopaths are violent criminals, not all doctors with psychopathic traits will lack empathy or compassion. Some may be able to harness their traits in a way that benefits their patients, as we've seen in our case studies. So where does this leave us? It's clear that the relationship between psychopathy and medicine is complex. There are pros and cons to having a doctor with psychopathic traits. It's not a black and white issue, but rather a fascinating gray area that warrants further exploration. In conclusion, it seems that the world of medicine could indeed benefit from certain psychopathic traits. Fearlessness, decisiveness, and the ability to remain calm under pressure are all qualities that can contribute to saving lives and improving patient care. The next time you visit your doctor, you might just find yourself hoping they're a bit of a psychopath.